we've been watching a lot of these guys at Oklahoma practice, and I got to tell you, I can't freaking believe it. They're feisty and fight. I mean, you had Stoops, little Drake Stoops was going at it with Billy Bowman yesterday, man. They got into a scuffle. I love it when players fight with each other out on the field.
Yeah.
I know you used to love that during practices when they, you don't want it to get too far,
Right.
but you let it go a little bit, right?
Well, you got to let them. Number one, you're having some good intensity at practice when you have something like that
Oh, yeah.
break out, and then the other thing, you know what? It tells you those players have a little bit of, I don't know what word I want to use,
Oh, man.
but
they got a little fire to them, little pepper, baby.
Yeah. So I
Hey.
loved it. Now, like you said, you don't want it happening every day, but
Can't be getting hurt and doing all that kind of stuff. Yeah, of course.
But a little bit of that helps.
Hey, brothers fight all the time.
It gets everybody else at practice fired up.
Sure does, and I think that it definitely did. I know it had that effect on people, on Oklahoma fans today.
Sure.
They were loving seeing it. I mean, little Drake Stoops, man, and I mean, Billy's not huge, but you want to talk about athleticism, and I mean, he popped them, and Drake didn't give up the block. They just kept on. Welcome back to the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Watkins. He's the coach, Phillip Roybal. And if you love college football, you know you're in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring that bell so you don't miss one moment of the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. I'd like to welcome back to the show the coach, Phillip Roybal. How you doing today, Coach?
You know what? Every day that I wake up, my eyes open up, and I climb out of bed, it is an excellent day. Now, some of the crap that happens during the day may not be so excellent, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's a great day, just like every day.
Yeah, I feel you, man. It's been kind of one of them days around here today, too. I had a decent day, but it was, sometimes you just find yourself in situations where you shouldn't get in them. The juice ain't worth the squeeze, but you do it anyway. And there's just been it's stupid on my own part, but Twitter wars, man. I tell you, Twitter wars.
Oh, God,
man, it's bad. It's bad enough when it comes from Okie Light or Texas or something. And this isn't even that. This is coming from within, not even the Sooner. Well, the fan base, yes, but it started by a freaking other journalist, which,
And on a positive note here,
Yes.
I really like the work you've done on the site.
Hey, thanks, man.
It looks incredible, brother. You've done a lot of work, I can tell.
We're getting there, and I don't want to tell them to go to the site just yet because it isn't done, but we're getting there, and it's obviously we're kind of going through with the branding and stuff. And folks, I know everybody sees I got my the little this is right in there up above me there. You see that? The official podcast merchandise. I have dropped prices on everything in the store pretty much. I would tell everybody get out there and get it while it's hot. And we're actually coming up. I'm waiting to have a conversation with a certain family member of a friend of ours or a player of OU's. I've got a pretty cool design. I'm going to toss it over to you, Adele, and see what you think about it. But got a cool design that I'd love to leave for everybody to be able to purchase as well. If you guys have designs, if there's an idea that you have, something that we say or something that you want to see said, I mean, we always say horns down and all that kind of stuff, but anything you want to put in there, let me know if it's within reason. I mean, as you can see, the hats that I've got in here, I'm pretty lenient about what we sell for merchandise.
I've got one for Texas, but I don't think we can. I don't think it's the number one to put on there.
We might be able to do it. We might be able to do it like let's see, this one. We could do it as a hashtag, maybe. Let's see what y'all think. Might do that one. What do you think? How about that? Is that what you were thinking?
Yes, sir.
Is that what you were thinking?
Yes,
all right,
sir.
Something along those lines, anyways.
Hey, read between the lines.
Perfect. Yeah, and but and I will say that when it came to all this stuff with Peyton Bowen's family, you saw a bunch of people from Texas, which was cool that they were very supportive, about it. There's a couple that weren't, but it's always outnumbered by the ones that are great. You know what I mean? It's just so as far as with something like that.
Yeah, the majority.
Most people are decent people, even if they're Texas fans. They're usually decent people. Yeah. So that would be something that I look at and yeah. Oh, and then what were we saying? Oh yeah, Hank, is it you that calls USC suck? I like that one. We could change. We could flip it around and even do the colors or whatever. That'd be kind of cool, right? I don't know. Yeah,
can't spell suck without USC.
That's right. You can't. Thank you, Hank. Love it.
Thanks.
So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and we'll get some stuff in there. But check out the site. We've dropped the prices on everything. We're not selling a whole lot, so but the thing is, guys, anytime you want to help us out on the show, let us know right through Venmo, Cash App, or the Super Chat Heart. We do still have our I'll pop it up there here in just a few minutes, but it's our Fanatics partner store as well, up to 65% off everything you want. I'm actually starting to get some new partnerships with some of these other sponsors type of deal, more like affiliate stuff. But yeah, I've got one that says Tebow right now. Kim, if you look at that one, it's just above Coach here. So yeah, you can check that one out there, and it's in all different colors. We do have some Otis Taylor stuff in there as well. Anything that you buy on the Otis Taylor stuff, I actually did get one of those hats as well yesterday. So this is one of the Forever 89s hats. Anything that we sell that has anything to do with the Forever 89, obviously this is our hashtag, something that we've used way past due, the same thing. We will definitely be putting that towards getting him into the Hall of Fame. So what, we would like to do some advertising, some paid advertising on some stuff like that. We've talked about doing even like, his story is so amazing. His book, his everything that you read and the things that you hear about him, it's just, this story is so amazing. And so we'd love to finally get the man in the Hall. Anything that we sell that has anything to do with Otis Taylor will go directly to that. But again, we got to kind of pay the bills around here too. So don't forget to hit us with a tip if you feel the need. We will open up the line here in just a little bit for you guys to jump in with us. Wanted to talk a little bit today about, well, a couple of things. How about this? We were just talking about it on Ty's show in there earlier, and man, we've been watching a lot of these guys at Oklahoma practice, and I got to tell you, I can't freaking believe it. They're feisty and fight. I mean, you had Stoops, little Drake Stoops was going at it with Billy Bowman yesterday, man. They got into a scuffle. I love it when players fight with each other out on the field.
Yeah.
I know you used to love that during practices when they, you don't want it to get too far.
Right.
But you let it go a little bit, right?
Well, you got to let them. Number one, you're having some good intensity at practice when you have something like that
Oh yeah.
break out, and then the other thing, you know what? It tells you those players have a little bit of, I don't know what word I want to use,
Oh man,
but they
they
have
got a little fire to them, little pepper, baby.
yeah. Yeah. So I
Hey,
no, I
hey,
loved it. Now, like you said, you don't want it happening every day, but
can't be
yeah,
getting hurt and doing all that kind of
right.
stuff. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
but a little bit of that helps.
Hey,
And
brothers fight all the
it gets
time too.
everybody
That's the
else
other
at
thing.
practice fired up.
Sure does, sure does, and I think that it definitely did. I know it had that effect on people, on Oklahoma fans today.
Sure.
They were loving seeing it. Little Drake Stoops, man, and Billy's not huge, but you want to talk about athleticism, and he popped them, and Drake didn't give up the block. They just kept on, kept on, kept on. A lot of moxie. I enjoyed seeing it. And then you're seeing these linebackers are bigger than they've been in so
Oh,
long.
yeah. Bigger and
And
faster and stronger.
I'm telling you, these guys, it's just to see the difference just in a year
Yeah.
of right now. I was just telling those guys on Ty's show, Coach, a year ago they were so thin along the defensive line, and they're still a little thin at the tackle position, but they've got some parts to move and do some different things. And you know how it is with the 3-3-5. You can do some things.
Yes.
Also, but the secondary, I just sat there, started writing it down, and the guys that are really just kind of showing out. You've got the incumbent would be Woody Washington, he's still there. He's a great player himself. But you got Kendall Dobie coming in from the JUCO ranks for the corners. But we've talked about Makari Vickers. He's lighting it up, playing great out there. Peyton Bowen's looking good as himself up until the weekend. He had his first interception the other day. But you've got guys like Josiah Wagner and Dave McCullough that is coming from. You still got that up there? Oh, you froze up a little bit there, Coach. But Dave McCullough, who's going to be a safety. You've got Billy Bowman, as I talked about. You've got, man, it just goes on and on. And this is a great problem to have.
Sure it is.
A great problem to have, because before, you don't got enough guys running out there to really and now they're wondering who's going to play the cheetah.
Yeah.
And just, hey, on standby, are you ready to come on? You can come on with us anytime you'd like to, Adela. Anyway, the these guys, and then we're not even talking about some of the linebackers and stuff like that, but they're loaded everywhere. You're not sure who's in, and now I think they're starting to wonder, how are we going to get all of these guys some time, right?
Yeah.
Because and you know how that is. How do you make that? And that's what I was going to ask you, is when you've got a bunch of guys, and particularly they're young guys, you want to develop them, and you don't want to get them. Obviously, it can play itself out if they're struggling with the defensive calls, stuff like that. But we're not really seeing a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of athleticism, a lot of guys that are doing some amazing things, and so you're starting to wonder, how do you juggle that?
I tell you what, it's a great problem to have. And
Mm-hmm.
our interior linemen, we loved having a good rotation with those guys, because now if you've got enough guys to get in that rotation,
Right.
you're going to be late in the game. You're really going to be ahead of the ball game, because they're going to be fresh,
Sure.
they're going to be strong, uh, and no, I think it's a great problem to have. And like you said, you got some of the young ones that they may be struggling a little bit, but you put them down there
Sure.
with the other three, and sub them in that way. And during the week, you'll prep during the week depending on who you're playing. And you know what? We're going to get this is going to be the guys we start with. One of them may be one of those young ones. So he gets
Yeah.
some of that work with the older guys and they can talk to him, coach him up. But hey, I'm telling you, if you if you can go into that with at least 8 bodies that can get it from,
Interchangeable and just
yeah,
kind of in and out of
yeah,
there. Right.
it's
Yeah.
golly, you
Well,
if you can
just
do
looking at
that,
their
you're going to be
defensive
pretty damn good
backs.
on defense. I mean,
Yeah, I mean Josiah Wagner, he's a freshman coming in. Came out of Washington State. Now they were calling him Pitbull the other day. You know what I mean? Because and this is a kid who's mixing it up, and he's not a big guy, but he's in there mixing it up. And then Kendall Dobie, apparently from everything I've seen and heard, this is another cornerback that is just a flat out stud athlete. Um, you've got the younger McCullough brother who probably going to get some safety time, except for you've got safeties in. We were just talking about Billy Bowman. That guy's a stud. He's established himself as you got to put him in,
yeah,
right? And then, like I said, with Woody Washington, he's been the best corner on the defense for the last two years at least, and definitely he obviously got a lot of experience. He's had made big plays at big times. I mean, he had 2 interceptions against Texas 2 years ago. It's important that he's going to obviously play, but you're going to see guys like, I mean, Josiah is probably going to get in there for sure at corner. I think with Murray, you're probably going to see him playing some nickel as well because he's a big kid. Even though he's playing corner, you're going to see a lot of nickel out of him, and he could. And I think that's really what they're trying to see more of, and something that they've been talking about a lot is that um, a lot of these secondary coaches like Jay Adai, he wants you to just call them defensive backs because he wants to move them around, and they're gonna move them around. So they're yeah, and I agree with you here on that, Kim. That they are gonna have some guys that they're gonna have to go. Um, they're gonna have to mix some snaps up and stuff like that, and maybe it's the hot hand for a day or whatever, somebody that's doing whatever they're doing. But again, this is if for all of us OU fans that have been watching great offense for all this time,
yeah,
and then hoping that it's enough because you just weren't stopping anybody. This is an awfully cool thing to start seeing
yeah,
if you're an Oklahoma fan, because now we're still got a good offense. And now we're going to go out there and be able to stop some people. And this is going into the SEC next year. You got to do it. You just got to do it. So I am, yeah, maybe Hank, but I tell you, he's out there kicking ass. And I mean, they're calling him Pitbull because he's mixing it up. So Wagner is one of those guys that, I don't know that he's going to get a ton, but because there's only so many spots on the field. But your linebackers, you start talking about that. Samuel Omosiho is probably going to get some playing time. Lewis Carter's not even there yet. But if you've watched that kid's film, Florida kid, fast as hell, he gets to the football. When you saw the All-American game, the Under Armour game that he was in, he was all over the field, just like in one of those guys that just like, well, and we hadn't even brought him up yet, but Adebaware, who, his brother ran a freaking, what did he run, a 4.4, and he's 290 pounds, at the combine this year,
yeah,
played at Northwestern. He's got a 7-foot wingspan. I don't see how you can keep him out. He's going to play flat out. He's going to play. He's a game wrecker.
yeah.
So, I mean, we got guys that it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So, just kind of excited about that. You are starting to see a lot of traction in the recruiting as well. They picked up their first commitment now, and I know a lot of people are a little worried about this. Why are we not getting commitments? I'll tell you why, and I think most people do know this. Coach Venables does not want you committing, and you're still going to be taking visits. So he doesn't want them. He wants them to go take your visits. Don't commit and then go visit somewhere else. I don't want you dating me and dating somebody else, basically. I think that there was times last year that I thought that was a little much to ask. Who in the hell am I to question it whenever he got a top 4 recruiting class? It worked, and they are really working on relationship building more than we're going to pay you if you get here, right?
Yeah. Well, and
Go
I
ahead,
got to
Coach.
tell you, Jason, I really like that mentality because, hell, let's be honest. I mean, it's about building those relationships with those
Sure.
players, and it doesn't make a crap if they commit or they don't commit. Because at the end of the day, until that name's on the dotted line, and again, why do you
That's
want
why we don't talk a lot of recruiting here.
exactly? And why do you want what in my opinion, you know what? This is what I have to sell. I have something good to sell here. So go
Sure.
look at all that other crap that's out there. Because ours is the
Mm-hmm.
best. I mean, and to me, that's the way that ought
Right.
to be the mentality people have instead of saying, "Well, you know what? Sign with us, and then you're done. Commit to us, and you're
Well,
done."
you see what that did to Jimbo's team last year. I mean, they didn't get fits. They just got guys that they were athletes. They got athletes all over the field, and then what? Most of those 5 stars that they got last season are gone now.
They're gone. Yeah.
I think all but one of them, all but one of the 5 stars that they picked up in that class are
Yeah.
gone. And because they just weren't fits and money, and on top of that, who's to say what they're doing with the money? They're promising this and not delivering. I mean, I could see a booster cutting off payments when they only had 4 wins,
Yeah.
towards the end of the season. I could see that happening. And on top of that, he's suspending players for, I mean, obviously there was just some bad fits where I was hoping that, obviously they needed some more bodies in Oklahoma last year. But I'll tell you, he is sticking to the plan. And here's what something that we were talking about on the show a few minutes ago, and this is something that I think more about this all the time. When you start thinking about real recruiting and like elite recruiting, you're thinking about SEC teams first, obviously Georgia, Alabama, LSU. But who else? Clemson.
Yeah.
Clemson has been recruiting elite. Now, guess what? The biggest part of the Clemson staff is now at Oklahoma, particularly defensively anyway. They got players that came from Clemson. James Skalski's been out there, getting after it with the linebackers. Hell, BV's been out there getting after it with the linebackers too. It's been kind of fun to watch these guys. It's just what we've seen on television and stuff like that, because not everything's been open. But these guys are in the room. Right now they're in on probably, I mean, they've got a list of about 5-star defensive tackle guys, and there's not a ton of those dudes around anyway. They're in on almost every one of them. Obviously, we're talking about David Stone would be the biggest one. Even Gerald McCoy is helping recruit him because he's an Oklahoma kid, as we talked about. But if Williams Waneri, there's a list of guys, and every one of them has Oklahoma in their top 3, or in their top 11, depending on where they're at on their stuff. They picked up Jeremiah. Oh man, I had that written down. Defensive back out, another defensive back that was their first one. And again, he's been telling a lot of these guys they're ready to already say, yeah, we're coming. We're going to go ahead and, we want to go ahead and commit. And he's been like, don't, because if you're going to go to some of these other places, I don't want you to do that. I would rather you go and then commit whenever you're ready, whenever you've seen it all, because that way we're good to go. And I agree with that. I mean, if you know that you've got the goods, like you said, Coach, if you got the goods, you've got the best coaches for the defensive line. You've got one of the best coaches, secondary coaches, and Coach Adai, a great recruiter.
Yep.
I mean, every one of these guys can recruit. Every one of these guys is recruiting great.
I agree.
And this is the same staff that was recruiting guys like, what's his name? Isaiah Simmons. And, they had 3 first rounders in 2020 off the defensive line. I mean, it's just one after another after another. Yeah, we were just talking about that, Jimmy, where Billy and Stoops were getting into that fight. Yeah, they've got 5-star crystal balls right now that are in favor of Oklahoma, 7 of them. when pen hits paper, but this is a difference in even a year ago, we weren't in the room with these guys. Oklahoma was not getting in the room to have these conversations. And, you can go get a Heisman quarterback if you want to, and that's great. And I think that they have a Heisman quarterback type right now that they just brought in. They've got Michael Hawkins, who's a crystal ball, and he's going to be another 5-star. That'd be 8. He'll be 5-star by the time this is all said and done. I'm almost sure that he's going to Oklahoma. His dad and Lebby are best friends. They were in the same recruiting class at Oklahoma too. So, that's probably going to work out in that favor. They already got a 2025 quarterback that, is already committed to Oklahoma as well.
Yep.
This is a different thing than what we're used to seeing. It's a great thing to see. And for the haters that are out there that are saying, "Oh, well, they were 6 and 7, blah 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 blah," it just goes to show you how little people pay attention to what's really happening if it's not on their team. It's easy to just look at the paper, look at what happened on paper. You don't even realize that 5 of those losses were by a touchdown or less, 4 of them by 3 points. What's the difference? I mean, if you win 3 of those games, that's 9 wins.
Well,
and they were 124th out of 131 on defense too, total defense.
Exactly. And again, I tell you, and we're seeing some of the same things happen over in our program at Notre Dame, and it's again,
yes,
we're getting recruiters, coaches that can coach, and I tell you what, guys, and some people
going to what we were talking about the other day on Cody's show was culture, and that was something that he wanted to talk about, and that's exactly what's happening in Oklahoma, and I want to hear about that with Notre Dame too, because I agree with you.
No, it's the same thing, and the bottom line is, guys, it's and people will call me crazy, and with every right to, but I would rather hire a great recruiter than a great coach. Because if I have the Jimmies and the Joes, you know what? My coaching has to be this much compared to if I'm playing you with a bunch of 3-stars, I got to coach them up. And you know what? The hard part about that is I can coach my butt off and be the greatest coach in the country, and I'm going to get a 3-star to play a little bit better, but I'm competing against 5-star players. So I'd rather have a great recruiting coach, and we're seeing that at the University of Notre Dame. But here's the thing: I compare it to OU, and I'd look at Notre Dame. Now we have both great coaches and great recruiters, which is gonna. I think we're gonna see the fruits of that labor.
Sure. And I mean, and I've said this too. I think Marcus is a great coach. I mean, and everybody that's had anything to say about him. I mean, he's been at everywhere he's been. They loved him. I think that it was pretty clear when Kelly decided to leave. That there was nobody else that those kids wanted to coach them. And to me, I think that, and again, I feel like when you start looking at, you look at Miami, they got, now he was having to jettison a lot of people. And I know a lot of people were talking a lot of smack about Cristobal. I mean, Cody likes to. Of course, he's a Florida fan.
Sure.
But I got to tell you, I mean, that guy, it takes, you have to replenish the tree, man. You got to cut the branches. The dead stuff has to fall away. Yeah. And in the end, if you didn't recruit them to begin with, how much are you, when you come in and you want to do things different than what the last coaching staff was doing it's not always as easy as saying, hey, you're going to do it. And then they just buy in right away. They just don't.
No.
And particularly when things do get tough and you're used to having you've got you had a Heisman quarterback the year before that saved their ass out of at least 6 games then.
Yeah.
With Lincoln, if it wasn't for Caleb Williams, they for sure lose Texas. They for sure, they probably lose 2. They definitely almost lose Kansas.
Yeah.
I mean, I still don't know how they did.